Did it go live? Still loading on my end. Load. Here we go. Welcome back to Cubfidential. It's your intern, Tariq, the producer intern. Here we got another good episode of Cubfidential. We got my guy JB Ellis, my worker, Denzel Snipes, who's another producer as well, good guy as well. And we got Jacob Christner, who I call JC, by the way. My boy, my brother for life, and got another absolute banger of Cubfidential. Here we're gonna get my main man, JB Ellis, on the show.
What's going on, Tariq? How you doing tonight? Tariq is gone. Just like the Cubs playing down to their competition. I'm not feeling it. About to get swept by the Sox. Lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets, who sold off everything. But then again, they went to Toronto, won 2 out of 3. Play great baseball against the team that's battling for the playoffs. Let's bring in the man, the one and only pundit's pundit, Mr. Umps himself. Let's talk some Cubs baseball. Jacob, come on in.
What's going on? How's it going?
I'm just watching this team that plays to their competition. It's so frustrating.
Well, it's part of the reason. See, when there's 162 games, part of the reason I always said, I mean, everybody could say how quote unquote wrong I would be because they were doing so well with these teams. About Ross, we were talking about this, and it's like when I keep saying they are a manager away from a champion.
Yeah, there's definitely something
the manager doesn't know that. Huh?
Yeah, there's something wrong with this, the way that they can't play against bad teams.
Yeah, well, that's a manager.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's start with the series in Queens, Flushing, Citi Field, one of the nicest stadiums in Major League Baseball, with a team that spent a lot of money to get on the field, is playing horrible baseball. One of Buck Showalter's worst years he's ever had as a manager. And the Cubs go there and play down to the Mets and lose 2 out of 3. What happened in New York?
I really, really believe that they were sort of believing. You remember at that time they finally got ahead. They finally got ahead in the final wild card, so they've always been ahead of their press. And they're like a game and a half away from Milwaukee and everything like that. And then they started rushing things. They started making themselves mistakes, and the flaws they've always had all year long started to come back because they didn't have it before. You got to remember they're one of the worst defensive teams in the infields in the baseball. So it all starts to come back, and see, a lot of that kind of stuff gets covered up. I mean, especially when the starting pitching starts to struggle, it all gets covered up when the team's hitting. But then it's still the same in the end because especially when you're struggling, especially struggling to win, especially against bad teams.
Yeah, I mean, what can you take out of? I'm going to lump the White Sox series and the Mets series together right now. Because the Cubs lost last night, they're down 3-0 in the top of the 8th with the bases loaded and 1 out. What can this team take out of these two series and the other series throughout the year, Washington, Miami, where they just haven't performed against bad teams? What do they need to do to turn it around and get to the playoffs? Because they're right there right now.
Well, here's the problem: you lose to these type of teams, you're going to stop beating the Braves types. You got to remember they're playing up all year and go down. That stops.
Right.
That does stop. The Braves are a monster. No matter what we had against the Braves, they're a monster. They just scored. I made the joke last week that it was 21-3 in that game one against the Mets, and the only reason it wasn't 28 because they wanted to win. I mean, that's the thing, but it's a joke to say. But I mean, the Braves are an absolute monster. They're going to be, and they're pretty much the best team in baseball. The Cubs got to them, but it's going to stop because September's coming. They're going to want playoff position. So all of a sudden, they just don't have a good enough manager. And I've been saying this even when we were winning.
Yeah, so we basically lumped that whole two series together. I mean, last night, Happ and Suzuki both homered, but then Luis Robert got the go-ahead homer in the seventh. He's a great player, Luis Robert. But, right now, about to blow another game. Too many unforced errors today. Pat made a bad play in the outfield. A couple of pass balls. Just too many things that just are not there for this team. It's like they sleepwalk through these games.
And you want to know what I think truly, and I would love to see now, and I hate saying this because this is my guy, but it might be really, really close for Kyle Hendricks to think about retirement. And I'll explain why. It's because right now, this has a reminder of when I used to watch Larry Bird in his final year, and he still had his good games.
Right.
He'd have his 12-point games because his back was so bad. He'd miss 25 games. He'd have the things. He'd struggle here and there. But then he'd have that 49-point game. He'd have the 40. He'd have this. He'd have the triple-double. He'd just come up with it. And that's what Kyle Hendricks is doing right now, truthfully, is he's continuing to get the quality starts. Every once in a blue moon, a really bad one. But continuing to get – he's not the dominant guy, but he's still getting the quality starts. He got 2 runs the start before against the Cardinals. Even though he gave up the 2-run homer. He got 2 runs there. He got 3 last night. He's getting quality starts over and over. It's going to get to a point – but he's not finishing. And it's going to get to the point where that stops. And then you let him go for nothing.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. Cubs got out of the top of the 8th without giving up anything else, so it's still 3-0 bottom of the 8th. Let's talk about the Toronto series. So the Cubs took 2 out of 3, 5-4 win in Game 2. Morel had a huge go-ahead RBI double in the ninth. He's just so much fun to watch. He's like the energy he has. You know who he reminds me of? And surprisingly, the guy was never really well liked. Yasiel Puig. He just has that energy. He wants to play hard, wants to do everything, but he's fun. I got that same vibe from Yasiel, but for whatever reason, he wasn't liked in the clubhouse. What is so special about Morel?
Well, what Morel reminds me of, and I'll say this is quite a bit for this, was Sean Dunston. Dunston used to throw 100. He used to throw 100 miles an hour to Grace at first base because he just loved. He loved the game. I mean, he played with a lot of hustle. And then Morel, see, the thing is, Morel has fun with the game. And you have to wonder if he would get paid, will he lose his fun of the game and it'll be a business, or will he continue? And that's what we say. I love the guy because I wish there was 9 of him. Or you put his blood in, and if everybody did that right now, they'd probably have 25 wins in a row. Yep. Because he just hustles like crazy.
So much fun to watch. So what did you take out of the Toronto series besides Morel?
Just the fact that they just keep hitting, but you got to realize, look at the numbers. Like, you got to look at the numbers by itself. Starting pitching just is kind of struggling at this point in time. You've basically the only guy halfway decent Steele. Hendricks is, as I said, a quality start. Basically 3 runs in 6 innings. That's what he is. 2 runs in 7, but he's not the dominant he used to be. Smiley just got moved. There's no Stroman. They were getting all this. We're getting away with these games because they're hitting. Cubs are getting away with it because they're hitting. But once they stop hitting like we've seen last night or like we see tonight, again, playing up to the competition is going to stop if you don't beat these teams. Because they're just going to get absolutely beaten to death against like the Braves the second time around.
So you mentioned Steele. That brings up our next topic. He's 13-3 with a 2.79 ERA, 120 strikeouts and 22 starts. Is he a Cy Young candidate to you?
Depends on September. It really does, because you got to remember he's 13-3, and the bullpen's blown 3 of his games. So that'd be 16 going to ready for 20. So that'd be getting ready for 20. So it's like, this is the thing with this. And I got to remember, I had a thought process that Kyle would be the 3rd best, and he's really the 4th. So I was wrong there. But as far as Steele,
3-1, Madrigal hit a solo home run.
Who did?
Madrigal.
Oh, okay, yeah. And no, the as far as Cy Young candidate, it's gonna get down to the whatever September hits. It really will, because the three that was blown would have made him that. So will he fall in line with that kind of a September bust possibly, or will they make a run? And it just really depends. And I think he would have been if he'd be 16-3 right now.
It's interesting. I think he's had a great year. I mean, I knew he was a good pitcher. I think he's kind of broken out a little bit. I hope he can continue the success he's having because he's a big part of this team. Especially with Stroman getting hurt um, and Hendricks being inconsistent, and Talion just not doing what was expected of him. That makes Steele even that much more important.
And well, he had 5 straight wins for that time to get us back in, get the Cubs back in. But at the same time, he's up and down, up and down. Steele's been this way all year.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. Let's go outside of Wrigley. We're gonna have a short show tonight because the game's still on, and we're doing so much at Sideline Sports. We'll get to that before we go. But right now, Bleacher Reports did a fan vote, and overwhelmingly picks Ronald Acuna as the potential 2023 MVP with 61.3% of the votes. You live in Atlanta. What's your thoughts on this?
That low?
Acuna, I don't get it.
Acuna's a monster like the Braves are. I mean, he's like 337. The amount of stolen bases he gets, he is the best overall offensive force. We'll just say second offensive force in the major leagues behind Ohtani.
He reminds me of Barry Bonds 1, which would be the Pittsburgh version of Barry Bonds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And no, see, the thing is, Acuna has such a fast swing, and he's such fast, and he makes contact, everything. He does not strike out a ton, which is huge on that boat, and especially for a leadoff hitter.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's one of the top 3 to 5 players of the game. I mean, right now, I would say Ohtani because he can do both pitch and hit. Then number 2 would probably be Acuna for me. I think he's that good.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like you have to wonder, as far as hitter, who would be better, Arias or Acuna?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And that would be a phenomenal series if they get there. Because that could be some great hitting.
I definitely agree. Let's go into the Hot Cup Time Machine. This is probably the best segment of our show. We get to visit the past with some great names. Gabby Hartnett, 19 seasons, 6-time All-Star, 1935 NL MVP, and he was elected into the Hall of Fame in 1955. Now, as we all know, we weren't alive for this guy when he played. What do you know about Gabby?
Well, let me tell you this right now. Is during the time you talk about 1935 NL MVP, that's around in the 20s, 30s, and all that. Remember this: they didn't have lights until '88. No one did. They had lights until '47, but they didn't have lights, which means you are putting up these numbers every single day, not night. Which means that you played the 1 o'clock game or 3 o'clock game or whatever. Then you put up your game, and then most of them would party all night. Then you wake up, you got to get up there at 6 in the morning because you got a 1 o'clock game. And he did this for 20 seasons and put up those numbers and get an MVP.
Yeah, it was a different time, like you said. Everything was during the day, different era. Home runs weren't what they are now. The only guy really hitting home runs back then, there were very few. So it's just a different game.
I first heard of Gabby Hartnett's name from Mike Royko from Chicago. And because I used to watch, there was this one video about the history of the Cubs from Mike Royko at the library, which I probably read it 77 times. And he brought up Gabby Hartnett. I forget what his legitimate name was, his first name, but
right.
Royco used to just bring the thing because that was his beloved Cubbies, and it was just such a fun. I wish I could find that video today because I wonder if it's on. YouTube.
Everything's on YouTube. I think that's my
I just
opinion.
gotta
We're
find
on
it right.
YouTube, by the way. We're on YouTube. Make sure you
Yeah,
subscribe.
that's true.
Hit that subscribe button. Give us the thumbs up. One of these things, if you can see it, thumbs up. The Sideline Sports thing blocks it. So let's talk about Cub or Dud. So should the Cubs extend Morel this offseason? I'm going to give you three names because we only got one in the chat here. Morel, should they re-sign Stroman, and should they re-sign Bellinger?
Bellinger's a yes, even though it's a I said this with Bellinger. I was shocked. You got me right. You got me on this one. It's because he had 205 cumulative for the last 3 years, and he figured it out.
He was horrible.
I know. And you said it was a try, and you got me. I'll admit that. And there's sweet, Drew Smiley's in the game. Awesome. Anyway, but no, there was that, and that he deserves to be re-signed. And then Stroman, 10-8. That isn't terrible, but he's starting to struggle, and he's a distraction. And the Cubs are a manager away from that. And if you keep the distractions, then you get James Harden. And you get that situation. And it's like, really? When you're this close, you get my point? When you get the kind of crowd and you can go get somebody else. Got to remember, Seiya Suzuki is still here. So they could easily be in a run to get Ohtani. And then really finish it off. And then get a manager. I mean, but a distraction. I don't care if you get Ohtani. I mean, Ohtani hasn't helped the Angels when they're distractions. When it's a distraction, you don't want to keep it. And as far as Morel, oh, good Lord, yes, it's an extension. Because his energy, my whole thing is that he keeps his energy after he gets the money.
Great points. Where can people find you, Jacob?
Sundays, every couple of weeks with the professor and pupils. Monday nights, we have a new wrestling show. It is the Sniper and the Pundits. Thank you, Snipes. Denzel Snipes. It is off the top rope. And tomorrow we're working on a dry run of a off the top rope with trying a video out from an old thing. We're going to try something. So we got something good going with that, but that's Monday nights. Tuesday nights off. Wednesdays is normally the Sports Exchange, and this Thursday night's Pundit, and then I am on the bench usually whenever they need me for the Gauntlet.
Well, Jacob, as always, it was a pleasure. Great job tonight. Next week we'll talk some more. Hopefully we have some happy news to report. We make up some ground in the division, and we latch on to that wild card that it becomes ours.
Yeah, let's hope so,
Definitely. So, guys, make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube. This is Sideline Sports. Sideline Sports, the flagship shows on every Tuesday, 8:30 on NFL Alumni Media. Here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere you want to go to watch it online, we're there. Don't forget about our new show, Hawk Talk, with Dave. I'll mess up his name. And he's got him and two other former Seahawk players. I'm not going to tell you who they are. It's all over our Facebook. Look it up. One of them was on the Super Bowl champion team in the Legion of Boom. And that's also on NFL Alumni Media. We have the great shows Jacob was talking about. And we have so many more. We got the Gauntlet every Friday night. LinkedIn, which is the Eagles podcast show. Imagine promoting an Eagles show. Just imagine that.
Even better, imagine him promoting a Colts show, especially when you have Anthony Richardson.
Yes.
Excuse me. Yes. Can I say one thing real fast?
Yes.
I just want to say this while I'm on the air. Just had a little bit of a nice little run around with one of our Colts people with this tonight. Didn't like that I was bringing up Anthony Richardson's horrible. And he says, keep the receipts, the bookmark. Please do. Ask these people at Sideline. You're new here, folks. I'm going to let this remind you. Ask these people at Sideline how long I've been doing the James Harden thing. And that, by the way, it's been all 3 years. I did it 7 years before that. I'm not wrong often. So, yeah, keep your receipts and keep your bookmarks. Oh, and keep them when I'm right, too, not erase them.
Well, Jacob has been going at it with the 1st and 56 crew. Maybe you guys could get on each other's shows and have an open debate about it, because I know Rondo is great at what he does. You're great at what you do. And I think that you're both passionate about what you think. So I think I'd love to see it. You know?
I have no, I mean, I don't have a personal thing on it. I just say what I do, and I am verbose about it, you know, and maybe it's just because, here's the thing. There is no question it's because they've had 3 completely overrated, old school, very old statues of quarterbacks the last 3 years. So they're happy to see an athlete. Problem is, it's the wrong one.
Well, we'll see. I like Richardson. I think he's going to take a couple of years to learn. Are they going to be patient with him for that process? We'll see.
That's a good question.
I think he'll be okay with the right coaching. So, but besides for that, guys, there are so many great shows on Sideline Sports. Subscribe to the YouTube. Give us the thumbs up. Make sure you're watching. Until next week, this has been Cubfidential. Let's see if we can get back, catch up the Brewers and make up some games. Have a good night, everybody.